So for this week's presentation, I've decided to focus on the Kelly Vs Board of Trustees. The reason why I decided to choose this one was it's because it's kind of the opposite of what the last two I've kind of done are. The other two have been kind of negligence, and this one kind of in favor of the university. So the issue that was faced was the University of Illinois decided to cut 4 varsity athletic programs. These athletic programs were men's varsity swimming, men's varsity fencing, and men's and women's varsity diving. The plaintiff, William Kelly, who was a member of the men's varsity swimming team, filed a lawsuit against the Board of Trustees. This included the university's chancellor, the athletic director, as well. The suit was filed against the university for violating Title IX and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. So, like I said, I've touched a lot on the Title IX cases in terms of like how there needs to be equal opportunity for both, and there can't be a segregation or a dissidence about either of the two. If there is, then then the university is at fault. At the time, the man in charge was Ronald Gunther. He was holding the position of athletic director at the time for the Illinois University. His position had him oversee 19 athletic sports, all varsity, 4 of them which were the ones he cut. Gunther was in charge of managing a $600,000 budget cut, which having to make the tough decision, which no athletic director wants to make because it's cutting someone's potential to play and do sports. And we're all athletes, so no one wants to be doing that. But the universities nowadays are businesses, and that's the big focus for these universities, is how do they keep constant flow of money coming into the university, and how do they keep it being productive. So this is the big issue that they were facing. He used a decision process. There was 7 category steps for strategic planning on which sports were basically going to be the most beneficial and which ones were going to be the ones that were going to need to be cut. From these 7 steps, which were divided up between the Big Ten and the NCAA sponsorship championships, the tradition of success of the school and this program itself. So is it a sport that's been historically really strong because they don't want to cut a program like that, or is it a sport and a program that's kind of been underperforming for a very long time, historically not been really well? Are the facilities adequate on campus? If it's a sport that's not representing the best, facilities, and that also then goes down to how they've been performing. A good team that brings in a great deal of revenue and attention is going to get better facilities, and a low-performing one isn't. So it kind of snowballs effects. Level of interest, participation level, and the spectator interest. So, like at the high school level, there's a lot of players that are interested in wanting to come over because, in the end, those are students that are going to attend the school. And the level of spectator interest is a sport that garners a big interest. Like American football is a big reason why a lot of schools and these big schools make so much money because of this. And like soccer and other sports are low income sports, so they're not going to be the ones that they're going to keep around when the program needs to make cuts. And sadly, the men's varsity swimming team has had a history of weak standings in the conference and participation. So it just made it kind of an easy choice for them to be cut. The big issue that came about out of this, though, was that the men's swimming was cut, while the women's was not. The university's defense in this, which was what the plaintiff was trying to say, was that it was Title IX violation. The school, though they cut it, was saying that if they cut the women's program, they were then going to fall into Title IX allegations because they would have had not equal men's and women's sports. It makes sense when you look at it that way. The court's ruling for this subject was in defense of the university, saying that they were not in violation of Title IX. If they had cut the women's as well, then they were going to be in violation. They just made the cuts that were needed, like a business needs to, and they followed all the steps and regulations. My belief and thought on this was that it's a terrible, terrible thing for university to have to cut programs. No one wants to do it. No one wants to. They want to bring more programs in. They don't want to have to make the cuts because of financial issues. But it's a business, and you don't keep areas in a business that isn't generating revenue but is costing you a bunch of money, it's just not ethical sense in a business standpoint. So it needs to be cut, and they did it. They culled off the ones that needed to go, that weren't bringing revenue, to keep the ones that are bringing revenue back in. Doesn't mean that they won't bring the sport back later on. It just means they had to cut it now to stay viable. And it's a horrible thing that it's being cut. Programs are out. Students have to find new places. It's horrible. But I am fully in the same area of where the university was at, and they're making the right decision that to stay viable, they had to cut certain programs. And they weren't in violation of any form of Title IX or 14th Amendment clauses.